Hello everyone, welcome back to this video series on clinical SAS ADAM programming. In this video, we will see how to create treatment emergent adverse event flag in a crossover study. So with a separate flag for each period. So in one of the previous videos, we have seen how to create a treatment emergent flag in a crossover period, but it was only one flag. So here we are trying to create separate flags for each period. So let us go to the description and then see. So this example is for a 3-period crossover study in which the subject takes three different treatment in each period. So an adverse event could have been started in any period. So we want to create a separate treatment emergent flag for each period. The start and end date of each period is identified with APXX-STDT and APXX-EDT, where X could stand for 01 for period 1, 02 for period 2, and 03 for period 3. So we'll have the start and end dates of each period in ADSL dataset. So we will be making use of those variables to check in which of the periods the adverse event have started. So we compare the adverse event start date in with the period start and end dates and create three flags. One is TRTEM1FL and TRTEM2FL and 3FL, one for each period, to check for treatment emergence in period 1, 2, and 3 respectively. So an adverse event could have been started here or here or here. So if it is started here, so we would flag TRTEMFL EM1FL as Y. Whereas if the event started between the period 3 start and end date, so we would flag TRT EM3FL. So basically these three flags are mutually exclusive because we will compare the adverse event start date with the period start dates. So it could only fall in one of the three periods, not in multiple periods. So let us now go back to the specification and see how it is written. So here we have the derivation logic given for ASTDT, TRTEM1FL, TRTEM2FL, and TRTEM3FL. So the first one is ASTDT. So it is a simple conversion of AESTDTC to numeric format. And for TRTEM1FL, so we are being asked to set to Y on the events with where ASTDT is in between AP01SDT and AP01EDT inclusive of the start and end dates. So that's why we have less than or is equal to. So if it falls in between the period 1 and period 1 start and end date, so we'll have to flag TRT EMFL EM1FL as Y, otherwise set this flag to no. And similarly for TRT EM2FL, we are being asked to cross-check the ASTDT with the period 2 start date and period 2 end date and flag it as Y, otherwise as N. And for TRT EM3FL, as expected, it is supposed to be the period 3 start date and period 3 end date. We'll have to check if it is falling in between, if the event started in between the start and end date of period 3. Otherwise, we'll have to set it to N. So let us now go to the programming for this. So here we will be using this dataset as input AE01. So this is a merged dataset wherein I have already pulled the period 1 start and end dates from ADSL into my adverse events dataset. So I have U sub JD AED code adverse event start date, which is AESTDTC from coming from SDTM AE, and then TRT01A, 02A, and 03A are the treatments taken by the subject in period 1, period 2, and period 3. So, and these are the start and end dates of each period. So we'll be using this data set as input and then create our three treatment emergent flags. So here I am creating using AE as input and then creating AE01 and using this AE01 as input and creating AE02. So in this step, when I'm creating AE02, the first thing that I'm doing here is creating my ASTDT variable. So I am using AESTDTC and converting it into numeric format using input function and YYMMDD10 dot format. But we are applying or converting this AESTDTC to ASTDT only when the date is full, because we can only uh, create a numeric date version only if the collected date is full. So which means we cannot convert partial dates to numeric date. So we are ensuring that this logic gets applied only when the collected date is full. So we know that in ISO 8601 format, when the collected date is full, we'll have 10 characters wide string. That is 4-digit year followed by hyphen, 2-digit month followed by hyphen, and 2-digit day. And then I'm applying the date9 format for ASTDT variable. So in the next step, what we are doing here is TRT EMFL, EM1FL is being created. For EM1FL, so as this is meant for period 1, so we need to check if the adverse event analysis start date is in between the period 1 start date and period 1 end date. So we are checking if ASTD, AP01 SDT less than or is equal to ASTDT, and then AP01 EDT. So and then if it is meeting the condition, so we are populating it as TRTEM1FL as Y. And in the next step, we are checking if ASTDT is falling in between period 2 start date and period 2 end date. So if that is met, then we need to have second period treatment flag to be flagged as Y. So that's what we are doing here. We are assigning the text Y. So to TRTEM2FL when the date is falling in between period to start and end dates. And similarly, so we are checking if ASTDT is falling in between period 3 start and end dates. And if it is the case, so we are assigning Y to the third period treatment emergent flag, which is TRT-EM3FL. So only one of these could have been met. So what we are doing here is, so we have handled only the case of populating Y till this step. So if a record passed through all these three statements of programming, so if this is met, then it will have a value of Y. Otherwise, it will be each of these variables will have a value of null. So in all the cases when it is missing, so we are setting that variable to n as per the specification. So if it is TRTEM1FL is missing, so we are setting it to n. So otherwise, if 2 is missing, so we are setting the 2 to n, and then similarly the third treatment emergent flag as well. So let us take a look at the AE02 dataset and then see how this looks like. So here if we see, we have the three treatment emergent flags populated. So here if we see for the first record, TRT EM1FL is populated as Y. Let us cross check if it is actually falling, the start date is actually falling in between period 1 start and end dates. So here the start date, I think we already, so the adverse event start date here is 13th May. So let's cross check if it is falling in between AP01 SDT and EDT. So 13th May is in between 3rd April and 15th May. So this is meeting the condition. So as expected, first period flag is populated automatically. So it would be the other two variables would have a value of n. And then we have on the second record we have TRT-EM2FL is being flagged. So we need to cross check whether the adverse event start date is actually falling in between second period start and end date. So the second adverse event started on 18th May. So second period started on 16th May and ended on 27th June. So 18th May is after 16th May and before 27th May. So this is correctly populated here. And then we have TRT-EMFL3 populated on the next record. So here in this case, so the adverse event start date is 1st August. Let us cross check if this is actually falling in between the period 3 start and end dates. So 28th June 2010 is the start for a period 3, and then 9th August is the end date. So it is in between these two dates. So this is correctly flagged in treatment period 3, treatment emergent flag. So if we take a look at the last flag, last record, all three variables have a value of n. So let us cross check the adverse event start date with the period start and end dates of all of these three periods. So we have 10th August as the start date. So we see that third period ended on 9th August. So this is technically after the third period end date. So this none of these periods prior to the third period will have a date before 9th August. So as it is happening after the end of the third period, so they should not have any of the three treatment emergent flags populated. So this is coming as expected. So this is how you can create treatment emergent flag when you need separate flags for each of the periods. So thank you for watching and keep learning.